Hello everyone and welcome back to Shadow Man Stories. I can picture some of you already in bed, maybe some of you just getting home from work. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, I'm glad you're here. If this helps you relax or sleep, please like and subscribe. It means a lot. Now, let's get you comfortable, and I'll tell you tonight's story. My name is Aurora Nightwolf, and I need to tell you something that happened to me in the winter of 1976. Something that changed everything I thought I knew about these mountains. I've been a ranger in the Bridger-Teton National Forest for 13 years now. Started back in '63 when they didn't want women doing this kind of work. Had to prove myself every single day, carry heavier packs, work longer shifts, never complain about the cold. Eventually, they stopped trying to make me quit. This wilderness became my home. I'm 34 now. Quarter Shoshone on my grandmother's side. Never married, never wanted to. My parents died in a climbing accident when I was 12. I watched them fall from a ledge I couldn't reach. After that, I learned everything I could about mountain safety. If I couldn't save them, maybe I could save someone else. People call me for the impossible rescues, the ones where someone's trapped at high altitude in bad weather. I know every cave, every shelter, every dangerous slope between here and Gannett Peak. I've pulled 23 people out of hypothermia situations. I know how to survive when nature wants you dead. My grandmother used to tell me stories when I was little. Stories about the Wendigo, a monster that ate people during harsh winters. She said it was once human, but hunger changed it into something else, something that could never be full, no matter how much it ate. I never believed those stories. Thought they were just warnings to stay safe, don't get lost, don't starve. The rational explanation for old fears. I was wrong. It started on January 14th. We had a research team up in the Wind River Range. 4 anthropologists studying old Shoshone hunting sites. Dr. Margaret Stone was leading them. Smart woman, experienced climber, knew the risks. The weather turned fast. It does that up here. One minute you've got clear skies, next minute, you're in a full blizzard. Temperature dropped to 35 below zero. Wind strong enough to knock you down. 14 feet of snow in some places. I wasn't worried at first. Margaret's team had good gear and knew their stuff. They'd waited out in their shelter, same as everyone else. Then the radio call came in. It was broken up, full of static, but I heard Margaret's voice. She sounded scared. Something's wrong. Voices in the wind. Not alone up here. Then nothing. Just dead air. I tried calling back. No response. The ice storm had knocked out most of our radio towers anyway. We were cut off, 40 miles from the nearest town. No vehicle access until the roads cleared. Could be weeks. I gave it 2 days. Protocol says wait for the weather to break. But on day 3, when we got a small window of clear sky, I knew I had to go. I packed my emergency gear. Cold weather tent, snow cave kit, backup radio, 3 days of food. My .44 Magnum. We get grizzlies up here sometimes, even in winter. Dressed in layers, made sure my face mask was tight. At 35 below, exposed skin freezes in minutes. Jake Wolfcreek met me at the ranger station. He's Shoshone. Been a ranger almost as long as me. Good man. Knows these mountains like his own hands. You sure about this, Aurora? He asked. Weather could turn again. 4 people are up there, Jake. We can't just leave them. He nodded slowly. Margaret's team was studying the old burial caves, sacred sites. My grandmother always said, we shouldn't disturb those places. Your grandmother also thought trees had spirits. Maybe they do. He looked at me seriously. You remember those Wendigo stories your grandmother told? Jake, come on. We're looking for lost hikers, not monsters. Just be careful up there. Some places, the old stories exist for a reason. I laughed it off, grabbed my gear, and headed out. The Sayos, now-mobile ride, took 4 hours. The wind cut through everything. My goggles kept frosting over. I had to stop twice to warm my hands before frostbite set in. When I reached Margaret's camp, everything looked normal at first. Their big orange tent stood intact, barely visible through the snow. No damage, no avalanche signs. Relief flooded through me. They were probably just hunkered down inside, radio dead. I called out. No answer. I unzipped the tent. Empty. But here's the thing that made my skin crawl. The sleeping bags were still warm. Not cold, not frozen. Warm. Like someone had just gotten out of them. There was coffee in a metal cup sitting on the camp stove. I touched it, still hot. Steam rising into the frigid air. At 30 below zero, that coffee should have frozen solid in minutes. I stood there in that tent, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. 4 sleeping bags, still holding body heat. Hot coffee. But no people. The rational part of my brain kicked in. Maybe they'd just stepped outside. Maybe they heard me coming and went to meet me. I went back outside, calling their names. Margaret, Dr. Stone, anyone. The wind swallowed my voice. Then I saw the tracks. 4 sets of footprints leading away from the tent, headed toward the tree line. They were running. You could tell by the spacing, the depth, the way the snow was kicked up. People don't run in a blizzard at 35 below unless something's very wrong. I followed the trail, my heart pounding. Every few yards I found something. Margaret's hat, someone's glove, a backpack, dropped and abandoned. It was like they were shedding weight, trying to move faster. The footprints led into the pine forest. The trees here grow twisted and stunted from the wind. In summer, they're beautiful. In winter, they look like frozen skeletons reaching up from the ground. That's when I heard it. A scream, high-pitched, terrified, coming from somewhere ahead. I broke into a run, or as close to a run as you can manage in deep snow. I'm coming. Hold on. The scream came again, closer now, but something wooed as wrong with it. The pitch was off. Too high, then too low, like someone playing a recording at the wrong speed. I pushed through the trees and found the first body. It was Dr. Michael Chen, one of Margaret's team. I recognized his jacket. He was face down in the snow, and at first I thought maybe he'd just collapsed from the cold. Hypothermia can make you do strange things, make you think you're hot when you're freezing, make you take off your clothes and lie down to sleep. But when I rolled him over, I saw his chest. Something had torn it open. Ribs cracked outward like broken fingers. His heart was gone. Just gone. Removed with precision, like surgery. The wound was frozen. No blood in the snow. Whatever happened, it happened fast, and it happened recently. I backed away, reaching for my radio with shaking hands. Jake? Jake, come in. We have a situation. I found one of the team. He's dead. Something attacked him. Static. Then Jake's voice, crackling. What do you mean? Attacked. Bear? No, no bear. I don't know what this is. Get out of there, Aurora. Right now. I can't. 3 more people are still missing. Aurora. The radio cut out. I tried again. Nothing. The storm must have gotten worse. I was alone. That's when I noticed the other tracks. They were mixed in with the human footprints, but I hadn't seen them before because the snow had partially filled them in. These prints were huge, maybe 3 times the size of a human foot. But they had toes, 5 of them, and claw marks at the tips. The spacing was wrong too. Whatever made these tracks had a stride longer than any person could manage. The prints went from human-size to massive and back again, like the thing making them was changing as it walked. I'm a tracker. Been reading animal signs since I was a kid. I know bear, wolf, mountain lion, elk. This was none of those things. Whoom-woo. Wind picked up, and I heard that scream again. Except this time, I realized it was coming from multiple directions at once, north, south, east, surrounding me. And then I recognized the voice. It was Michael Chen, the same man whose body lay in the snow 10 feet away. Help me, the voice called. Aurora, please help me. My blood went cold. Dead men don't call for help. I ran. Didn't think, didn't plan, just ran. The snow grabbed at my legs, my pack bounced against my back, my breath came in frozen gasps. Behind me, I could hear something moving through the trees. Fast. Faster than anything should move in this snow. I risked a glance back. Something tall was standing between the trees. Too tall. Its arms hung down too long, reaching almost to its knees. In the twilight and blowing snow, I couldn't see details, just a shape. A wrong shape. It tilted its head, watching me. Then it smiled. I could see the teeth from 50 yards away. I crashed through the forest, my heart trying to break through my ribs. The trees were too close together for my snowmobile. I had to get back to the camp, get the emergency flare, signal for help somehow. The tent appeared through the snow. I dove inside, zipped it shut like that would matter. My hands shook as I dug through my pack for the flare gun. Something scratched at the tent wall. Slowly, deliberately. Not animal claws. Fingernails. Human fingernails, dragging across the fabric. "Aurora," a voice whispered. Margaret's voice. "Let me in. It's so cold out here." I aimed the flare gun at the tent wall. "Margaret, please. I'm freezing. I'm so hungry." "Where are the others?" A pause. Then, "What others?" "Your team. Dr. Chen. The research team." Another pause. Longer this time. When the voice came back, it was different. Deeper. Wrong. "I ate them." The scratching stopped. I heard footsteps crunching away through the snow. Then nothing. Just wind. I waited in that tent for 3 hours. Flare gun pointed at the door, barely breathing. Every sound made me jump. Every gust of wind sounded like breathing. When dawn won. Ellie came, gray and dim through the storm. I unzipped the tent. The tracks around the camp told the story. Those huge, wrong footprints circled the tent dozens of times. At one point, something had stood right outside the door for what must have been an hour. The snow was packed down flat. It had been watching me all night. And in the snow, written in letters 5 feet tall, were 2 words. Still hungry. I should have left right then. Should have gotten on my snowmobile and raced back to the station. But Margaret Stone and 2 others were still out there. Maybe still alive. I couldn't leave them. The trail of massive footprints led northwest, toward the old burial caves Jake had mentioned. The caves were part of the sacred Shoshone sites, places where the tribe had performed ceremonies for hundreds of years before the cavalry drove them out in the 1870s. My grandmother had told me stories about those caves too, said the tribe used to trap evil spirits there, lock them away where they couldn't hurt anyone. I followed the tracks. The forest got darker as I went deeper. The pines grew so close together that the snow couldn't fall through properly. It hung in the branches above me, turning everything into a twisted white tunnel. The temperature dropped even further. My breath came out in clouds so thick I could barely see through them. That's when I found Margaret's journal. It was lying in the snow, pages flapping in the wind. I picked it up. The last entry was dated yesterday. Day 6 at the burial site. We found something in the deepest cave. Remains. Human, but wrong. Bones too long. Teeth filed to points. The local tribal consultant refused to come inside. He kept saying, "Wendigo," and "evil sleeps here." I told him we're scientists, not superstitious fools. Day 7. Dr. Martinez hasn't come back from his solo survey. It's been 14 hours, storm getting worse. We should search for him, but something feels wrong. The wind sounds like screaming, like someone dying slowly. Day 8. Found Martinez. What's left of him. Sarah is hysterical. Chen won't stop. Crying. Something did this. Something that used to be human. I saw it. Just a glimpse. It was tall. So tall, and it was wearing Martinez's jacket. The thing that bothers me most? It knew my name. It spoke to me. It said, "Margaret, I'm so hungry. Feed me. Please feed me." I think Martinez ate someone before he died. I think that's what started this, the starvation, the hunger. It changed him into something else. We're going to run. Try to reach the ranger station. If anyone finds this, don't come looking for us. Burn this whole mountain. Burn it before... The entry ended in a long scratch across the page. I was still staring at the journal when I heard the branch snap behind me. I spun around, flare gun raised. A woman stood between the trees. She was maybe 30 yards away, half hidden in shadow. She wore the same kind of winter gear as Margaret's team. "Hello?" I called. "Are you with the research team?" She stepped forward into a patch of gray light. It was Sarah Kimura, one of Margaret's graduate students. I recognized her from the team photo. Asian woman, small, tough. She'd climbed Everest the year before, but something was wrong with her face. Her eyes were too wide. Her mouth hung open like her jaw wouldn't close properly, and she was barefoot in the snow. "Sarah? Are you okay?" She took another step forward. Her movements were jerky, wrong, like someone learning to walk for the first time. "So hungry," she whispered. "Haven't eaten in days. Do you have food?" I reached into my pack, pulled out a protein bar. "Here, take this." She looked at it like she didn't understand. Then her head tilted and she smiled. Her teeth had changed, longer, sharper. Not that kind of hungry. She lunged. I fired the flare. It hit her square in the chest, burst into red flame. Sarah screamed, that same wrong-pitched scream I'd heard before, and fell backward into the snow. A flare burned bright against her jacket, but she didn't stop moving. She stood up, flames still crawling across her chest, and kept walking toward me. "Still hungry," she said. "Always hungry, forever hungry." I ran again. What else could I do? Behind me, Sarah laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. The caves appeared ahead, dark holes in the mountainside, half buried in snow. I chose the largest opening and dove inside, hoping the darkness would hide me. The cave went back further than I expected. The walls were covered in old paintings, handprints, hunting scenes, and figures that looked almost human, but not quite. Tall, thin, with mouths full of teeth. My flashlight beam caught something at the back of the cave. Margaret Stone sat against the wall, knees pulled to her chest. She looked up when the light hit her. "Aurora?" Her voice was weak. "Oh, thank God. I thought I was alone." I rushed to her side. "Margaret, are you hurt?" "My leg. I think it's broken. I fell trying to get away from..." She trailed off, staring at the cave entrance behind me. "From Sarah? I saw her. Something's wrong with her." "She ate Chen's heart." Margaret said it flat, matter of fact. Right in front of me. Just bit into it like an apple. And then she started changing, getting taller. Her fingers got longer. Her teeth. I know. I saw. This is real, Aurora. The Wendigo. It's real. My grandmother was Cree. She told me the stories. I never believed them either, but it's real. She grabbed my arm, pulled me close. Martinez got trapped in a storm 2 weeks ago, before we arrived. He was alone up here for 5 days. No food. He got so hungry. There were bodies in the cave. Old bodies. Settlers from the 1800s. She couldn't finish. "He ate them," I said. She nodded. "That's what starts it. Human flesh. Once you taste it, the Wendigo curse takes hold. You stop being man. You become hunger." Pure, endless hunger. And it spreads. Anyone you eat, they can come back as Wendigo, too. A sound echoed from the cave entrance. Footsteps, multiple sets. How many? I whispered. All of them now. Chen died, but he came back. Martinez, Sarah. They're all out there, hunting, and they're getting stronger, bigger. Every person they eat makes them more powerful. The footsteps got closer. I killed my flashlight. We sat in the dark, barely breathing. Something entered the cave. I could hear it moving. The scrape of claws on stone, wet breathing, and worst of all, humming. Someone was humming a song. I recognized it. Amazing Grace. Chen used to hum it while he worked. Margaret had mentioned it in one of her reports. The humming stopped. I can smell you, Chen's voice said from the darkness. Living meat, warm blood. Come out, Aurora. I promise it won't hurt. Much. Light suddenly flooded the cave. Jake Wolf Creek stood at the entrance holding a powerful spotlight. Get away from them, he shouted. The thing that used to be Chen turned toward the light. I got my first clear look at it. It stood at least 8 feet tall now. Its arms reached almost to the ground. The skin had turned gray-white, like frozen meat. Its mouth was full of yellow teeth, too many teeth, all different sizes. It wore the shredded remains of Chen's jacket, but the body underneath wasn't human anymore. Jake raised a rifle, not his Ranger issue weapon, something older. The barrel was carved with symbols. Wendigo, he shouted in Shoshone. Then, in English, you are not welcome here. The Chen thing laughed. You can't stop us. We are hunger. We are winter. We have always been here. No, Jake said. You're just sick, and I know how to cure you. He fired. The bullet hit the Wendigo in the chest. It screamed, that horrible, wrong-pitched scream, and fell backward. Black blood sprayed across the cave walls. Silver bullets, Jake said, working the bolt. My grandmother made them, said we might need them someday. Didn't believe her until something grabbed him from behind. And Sarah, still on fire, still burning, she lifted Jake off his feet with one hand, her mouth opened impossibly wide. Jake! I screamed. He managed to twist around, jam the rifle barrel against her face, and fire. Sarah's head snapped back. She dropped him and stumbled away into the snow, screeching. Jake landed hard. He got up, limping. We need to go, now. More are coming. I can hear them. He helped Margaret to her feet. We half carried her toward the cave entrance. That's when I saw them, standing in the snow outside. 5 figures. 6, 7, all tall, all wrong. Some I recognized. Martinez, his face still human enough to identify. Others were strangers, maybe settlers from 100 years ago, maybe people who'd gotten lost in these mountains and never made it out. They'd all been hungry once. Now they were hunger itself. Jake raised the rifle. His hands were shaking. I've only got 3 bullets left. Then we need a new plan, I said. Margaret grabbed my arm. The ritual. My grandmother's ritual. It's in my journal. Did you find my journal? I pulled it from my pocket. She flipped through pages with trembling hands, found what she was looking for. Here. The binding ceremony. It can trap Wendigo spirits in a sacred place. Keep them from spreading. But someone has to stay. Someone has to be the guardian. Forever. What do you mean, forever? She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Someone has to guard them. Watch them. Make sure they never escape. That person can never leave the mountain. Never go home. It's a life sentence. The Wendigos were moving closer. Their mouths hung open, dripping black saliva. They were so hungry they could barely stand it. I could see it in their eyes. What little humanity remained, drowning in endless hunger. Jake chambered another round. Tell me what we need to do. Margaret's hands shook as she held the journal. The ritual requires 4 things. Sacred stones from the burial site, Fire made from pine that's been struck by lightning. Blood from someone with Shoshone heritage. And a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? I asked, though I was afraid I already knew. The Guardian. Someone has to stay here, bound to this place. They become part of the ritual, part of the trap. They keep the Wendigos contained. Jake looked at me. Your grandmother was Shoshone. So was mine. Either of us could. No time to argue. I cut him off. The Wendigos were circling now, moving in a pattern. Hunting pattern. Margaret, where are the sacred stones? Back in the cave. The old prayer circle. We dragged her back inside. The stones were there, 7 of them, arranged in a circle on the cave floor. Each one was carved with symbols I didn't understand. My grandmother had tried to teach me the old language once, but I'd been too young, too impatient. Now I wished I'd listened. Jake ran outside, came back with dead pine branches. Found a lightning-struck tree about 50 yards back. Will this work? Margaret nodded. Pile them in the center. Aurora, I need your knife. She used it to cut her palm. Blood dripped onto the stones, black in the firelight. Now you, Jake. He cut his hand, let his blood mix with hers. The Guardian needs to stand in the circle, Margaret said quietly. Once the fire is lit, once the words are spoken, they can't leave, ever. The binding is permanent. Outside, the Wendigos were screaming, working themselves into a frenzy. They knew something was happening, knew their prey was escaping. I looked at Jake. He was 26, had a wife, 2 kids, a whole life ahead of him. I was 34, unmarried, no kids. My life was these mountains anyway, had been since my parents died. I'll do it, I said. Aurora, Jake started. I'll do it, I said again harder. You have a family, I don't. This is my mountain. Let me protect it. Before he could argue, I stepped into the circle. The stones were warm under my boots like they'd been sitting in sunlight. But we were due. Deep in a cave. There was no sunlight here. Light the fire, I told Jake. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he pulled out a match, lit the pine branches. They caught immediately, flames climbing higher than they should. The smoke smelled like summer, like grass and flowers and warm wind. Margaret started reading from the journal. The words were in Shoshone, guttural and ancient. I didn't understand them, but I felt them. In my bones, in my blood. The Wendigos rushed the cave, all of them at once, pouring through the entrance like water. Chen in front, his mouth wide enough to swallow a head whole. Martinez behind him, walking on all fours like an animal. Sarah still burning, flames crawling across her gray skin. Jake fired, once, twice, 3 times. 3 Wendigos fell, silver bullets in their skulls, but there were so many more. They reached the circle and stopped. Something invisible held them back. They clawed at the air, screaming, but they couldn't cross the line of stones. The fire between us burned brighter, higher, until the whole cave was filled with light. Margaret kept reading, louder now, shouting over the Wendigo screams. Blood ran from her palm, dripping onto the stones, and they began to glow. I felt something wrap around my ankles. Looking down, I saw vines growing from the cave floor. Not plant vines, something else. Something made of light and shadow and old magic. They climbed my legs, my waist, my chest. This was the binding. I was becoming part of the mountain, part of the trap. Aurora! Jake shouted. He tried to reach for me, but Margaret held him back. Don't break the circle. If the ritual fails, they'll escape. They'll spread across the whole mountain range. Hundreds of people will die. The vines reached my neck, my throat. I couldn't speak anymore. Could barely breathe. The Wendigos were changing too. They were being pulled toward the tampon, circle, dragged by invisible hands. They fought it, digging their claws into the stone floor, but it didn't matter. One by one, they were sucked into the fire. Not burned, absorbed. Trapped. I watched Chen disappear into the flames, still screaming. Then Martinez. Then Sarah, finally putting out the fire that had covered her body. All of them, pulled into the light. The vines covered my mouth, my eyes. Everything went dark. I heard Margaret's voice, distant and fading. The ritual is complete. The guardian will hold them here until the mountain falls. Then nothing. When I opened my eyes, the cave was empty. No Wendigos. No Jake or Margaret. The fire had gone out, but the stones still glowed faintly. I tried to move. Couldn't. The vines were gone, but something else held me now. Some invisible tether. I could move within the circle, but when I tried to step past the stones, pain shot through my chest, like someone had hooked a chain around my ribs and yanked back. I was bound, permanently. "Jake?" I called. My voice echoed in the empty cave. "Jake!" No answer. I looked down at my hands. They looked normal. But when I held them up to the dim light, I could see through them, just a little. Like I was becoming transparent, becoming part of the cave itself. How long did I stand there? Hours? Days? Time felt strange, wrong. Eventually, Jake came back. He brought supplies, food, water, blankets. He cried when he saw me. "I'm so sorry," he said. "Margaret and I, we got out. The storm broke. We were rescued. But you, Aurora, you can't leave. We tried everything. But the moment you crossed the stone circle—" "I know," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "I can feel it. I'm part of this place now." He left the supplies just outside the circle where I could reach them. "I'll come back, every week. Bring whatever you need." "What did you tell them, the rescue team?" "That you died in an avalanche. That we couldn't recover the body. It was easier than the truth. So I was officially dead. A ghost haunting my own mountain." "What about the Wendigos?" "Sked." Jake's face went dark. "You can feel them, can't you? Inside the circle." He was right. I could. They were still here, trapped in whatever space the ritual had created. I could hear them sometimes, scratching at the edges of their prison. Hungry. Always hungry. "As long as you're here, they're contained," Jake said. "But Aurora, what if you die? What happens then?" I touched one of the glowing stones. Knowledge flooded into me. Old knowledge, passed down through generations of guardians. I wasn't the first person to take this duty. Wouldn't be the last. "Then someone else will have to take my place," I said quietly. "That's how it works. That's how it's always worked." Jake kept his promise. Every week he hiked up to the cave bringing supplies. Food I barely needed. I wasn't getting hungry anymore. Wasn't getting cold. Wasn't aging. The binding had changed me in ways I didn't fully understand yet. Margaret visited once on crutches, her leg in a cast. She couldn't look me in the eye. "I'm writing a paper," she said, "about the folklore, about Wendigo psychology, starvation-induced psychosis, cultural trauma, survival cannibalism, all the academic explanations." "But you know the truth," I said. "Yes. But the truth isn't something I can publish. They'd call me crazy." She finally looked at me. "I'm sorry, Aurora. This should have been me. I'm the one who disturbed the graves, who ignored the warnings. It's done," I said. "No point in regrets." She left her journal with me, something to read during the long nights. Winter passed. Spring came to the lower mountains, but up here it stayed cold. Snow never fully melted around the cave entrance. Like the ritual had created a permanent winter pocket. I could feel the Wendigos sometimes, especially at night. They pressed against the boundaries of their prison, testing for weaknesses. I'd hear Chen's voice calling Tit, "Oh me. Let us out, Aurora. We're so hungry. Please, we'll be good. We promise." But I'd also feel the other thing the binding gave me, a kind of awareness. I could sense when people entered, my section of the mountain, could feel when they were in danger. 3 times that first year, I guided lost hikers to safety. They'd hear a voice on the wind, telling them which direction to walk. They'd assume it was another hiker or a ranger with a bullhorn. They never knew it was me, the ghost in the cave, watching over them. Jake brought news from the outside world, said the official report blamed the research team deaths on an avalanche and subsequent exposure. Said I'd died trying to save them. They gave me a medal posthumously. "You're a hero," Jake said, trying to smile. "They named a peak after you, Mount Nightwolf." "Great. I'm commemorated on a mountain I can never leave." He stopped visiting after the second year, not because he wanted to. He'd gotten reassigned to a different district. Budget cuts. They were closing some of the remote ranger stations. So I was alone. Years passed. I stopped counting them. The cave became my entire world. I learned every crack in the walls, named the icicles that formed each winter. The Wendigo's voices became background noise like wind through trees. I discovered I could extend my awareness further if I concentrated, could feel the whole mountain range, every animal, every storm, every person who set foot in my wilderness. And I felt other things too, other guardians, other binding circles. There was one to the north in Canada, one to the east in the Adirondacks. An entire network of people like me sacrificing their lives to keep the hunger spirits contained. Sometimes, late at night, we'd call to each other, our voices carrying on the wind across hundreds of miles, sharing news, warning each other about threats. We were all that stood between the Wendigos and the world. The oldest guardian I spoke to had been bound since 1823, nearly 200 years in his cave. He'd gone mad decades ago, but he still held his post, and still kept his Wendigos trapped. That's what we did. That's what we were. I thought about that sometimes, about choice. The official story said I'd died a hero, saving lives. The truth was more complicated. I'd chosen to stay, chosen to sacrifice my freedom so others could be safe. Was that heroism, or just stubbornness? My grandmother would have known. She'd tried to tell me once during one of her Wendigo stories. "The greatest warriors aren't the ones who fight," she'd said. "They're the ones who guard, who stand watch while others sleep." I understood now. Winter came again. The 37th since my binding, or maybe the 38th. I'd lost track. The snow piled up outside the cave, same as always. The temperature dropped to 40 below, and someone stumbled through the snow toward my cave. A young man, maybe 25. Wearing inadequate gear, half frozen. He collapsed just outside the circle of stones. I called to him, but he couldn't hear. Too far gone. Hypothermia shutting down his brain. He was going to die, right there, 20 feet from me, and I couldn't reach him. The binding wouldn't let me cross the stones. I screamed in frustration. After all these years, after all the people I'd guided to safety with my whispered warnings, I couldn't save someone right in front of me. Inside the circle, the Wendigos stirred. They could smell him, smell the warmth, the blood, the meat. "Let us out," Chen's voice whispered. "We can save him. Bring him inside. Keep him warm." "Liar," I said. "You'd eat him." "Maybe. But if you don't do something, he dies anyway. At least our way." Part of him continues, forever hungry, forever alive. I looked at the young man. His lips were blue, his breathing shallow. I made my choice. Using what little power the binding gave me, I called to the wind, shaped it, pushed it. The snow around the young man's body began to pile up, creating a shelter. Not much, but enough to block the worst of the wind. Then I reached deeper into the mountain itself, found warmth from deep underground, from geothermal vents that ran beneath the range, pulled it up, guided it toward the cave. The young man stirred, his eyes fluttered open. "Help," he whispered. "Stay there," I called. "Don't move. Help is coming." I sent my awareness down the mountain, found Jake, old now, retired but still living nearby. Planted an urgency in his mind, a feeling that something was wrong on the mountain, that someone needed help. 3 hours later, Jake arrived on a snowmobile. He found the young man, barely alive, and got him to safety. The young man never knew about me, never knew that a ghost in a cave had saved his life. That was fine. I didn't need thanks. That's what I told myself anyway. 50 years. That's how long I've been here now. Or maybe 60. Time moves differently when you're bound to stone and shadow. Days blur into weeks, winters into summers. The cave stays the same, always cold, always dark, except for the faint glow of the ritual stones. I don't look the same as I did in 1976. When I catch my reflection in the ice that forms on the cave walls, I see something that's not quite human anymore. My eyes glow faintly, like an animal's caught in headlights. My skin has taken on a gray tint, like the stone around me. My hair, once black, now shimmers with colors that don't have names. I'm becoming the mountain. Eventually, I'll be indistinguishable from it. The Wendigos are quiet today. They rage less now. Maybe they're tired too. Or maybe they've finally accepted their fate. Chen still talks to me sometimes. His voice has changed over the decades, becoming less human, more like wind through empty skulls. "Do you regret it?" he asked me last winter. "Giving up your life?" I didn't answer right away. Did I regret it? "I saved people," I finally said. "Hundreds of them, probably. Guided them away from danger, kept you things from spreading. That has to count for something. But you gave up everything: love, family, growing old, dying properly. You gave those things up too. Difference is, you chose hunger. I chose duty." He laughed, that horrible broken glass sound. "Did you choose, or did you just run out of other options?" I hated that he might be right. Jake died last year. He was 78, had a good life from what I gathered. Retired, spent time with his grandkids, taught them about the mountains. He visited me one last time before the end, hiking up despite his bad knees. "Thank you," he said, standing outside the circle. "For all of it, for letting me have a life." "Someone had to stay," I said. "I'm glad it wasn't you." He cried. So did I, though I'm not sure I can still produce real tears. What came from my eyes looked more like morning dew. After he left, I felt more alone than ever. But then I discovered something new. The binding doesn't just connect me to this mountain. It connects me to all the mountains, all the wild places. I can feel them now. The forests, the deserts, the frozen tundra. Every place where humans fear to go. Every place where old things sleep. And I can feel the other guardians. There are dozens of us, maybe hundreds, scattered across the world. Each one bound to their own circle, their own prison, their own duty. We talk sometimes, our voices carried on winds that only we can hear. There's Maria in the Andes, bound since 1847. She guards 3 Wendigos who were conquistadors once, driven to cannibalism during a failed expedition. There's Takeshi in the Japanese mountains, protecting against something called a gashadokuro, a giant skeleton that forms from people who died of starvation. There's Anya in Siberia, dealing with entities that don't even have names. Things so old, they predate human language. We share stories, warnings, sometimes just company in the endless dark. Last month, Takeshi told me his circle is weakening. The stones are cracking. He's been there for 90 years, and he's afraid of what will happen when the binding finally breaks. "Will I die?" he asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I think maybe we're already dead. Have been since the moment we stepped into the circles." "That's not very comforting, Aurora." "No, but it's honest." The worst part isn't the isolation, isn't the cold or the hunger I no longer feel or the endless repetition of days. The worst part is watching the world change without me. I can sense it, even from here. The climate shifting, winters getting shorter, the snow line creeping higher up the mountains each year. Fewer people come to the wilderness now. They stay in their cities, connected to their computers, living virtual lives. The old places are being forgotten. Part of me wonders, when people stop believing in the wilderness, will places like this cease to exist? Will the binding break, not because the ritual failed, but because no one remembers why we're here? And what happens to the Wendigos then? I felt a new presence on the mountain last week. A young woman, hiking alone. She had that same restless energy I used to have, that need to prove herself against nature. She camped near my cave, not knowing what slept beneath the stones. I watched her through the night, making sure she stayed safe. Made sure the Wendigos didn't somehow reach through their prison to touch her dreams. In the morning, she stood at the cave entrance, looking in. She couldn't see me. I've become too much a part of the shadows, but I think she felt something. She shivered, despite her warm jacket. "Anyone there?" she called. I didn't answer. What could I say? "Yes, I'm here. But I haven't been anyone for 50 years. I'm just a ghost guarding monsters you don't believe in." She left a protein bar on a rock near the entrance. "In case some lost hiker comes by," she said to no one. After she left, I reached out carefully, pulled the bar into the circle. It was the first human contact I'd had in months, something someone touched, left for someone else, a small act of kindness in an uncaring wilderness. I couldn't eat it. Don't need to eat any more. But I kept it anyway. A reminder that people still care, even if they don't know what they're caring for. The sun is setting now. I can feel it, even though I can't see it from inside the cave. The temperature drops. The Wendigos start stirring, as they always do when darkness comes. "Aurora," Chen whispers. "I'm hungry." "I know," I say. "You're always hungry. That's all you are now. Hunger without purpose. Aren't you hungry too? For sunlight? For human touch? For freedom?" "Yes, God, yes. But I made a promise. To Jake, to Margaret, to all the people who walk these mountains and never know what watches over them. I'll keep that promise, even if it takes forever. Even if I forget my own name. Even if I become nothing but cold stone and old duty. Because someone has to stand guard. Someone has to hold the line between the world of people and the world of hungry things. That someone is me, has been me, will always be me." Aurora Nightwolf, first female ranger of Bridger-Teton National Forest, the ghost who guards the screaming pines. My name is Diana Redwood, and for 14 years I've protected some of the oldest living things on Earth. I'm talking about the giant sequoias of California, trees that were ancient when Jesus walked the earth, trees so massive that 15 people holding hands can barely circle their trunks. People think being a park ranger is all about giving directions and checking permits. They don't know about the 60-hour weeks, the wildfire smoke that burns your lungs, the times you find what's left of hikers who didn't respect the wilderness. I've seen a lot in my time here. I've pulled bodies from ravines. I've treated snake bites and broken bones miles from any hospital. I've watched lightning split a 300-foot sequoia right down the middle. But I never believed in forest spirits or tree demons. That was hippie nonsense. Stories from drug-using campers who spent too much time alone in the woods. I was wrong. It was October 1977, and the harvest moon hung over Giant Forest like a swollen orange eye. Fog had rolled in 3 days earlier and never left, which was strange. Our autumn mornings are usually crisp and clear. This fog was different, thick as wool, cold as a grave, and it made the massive sequoias look like the pillars of some ancient cathedral lost in clouds. I was doing my evening rounds when the call came through on my radio. Bob Ashworth, another ranger, his voice tight with worry. "Diana, we've got a situation. Photography group didn't check in. 4 people. They were supposed to be out yesterday." I felt my stomach drop. 4 people. In October, that meant they'd been out there for at least 24 hours in this cold. Where were they headed? Giant Forest. They wanted shots of the General Sherman tree and the surrounding groves. Sunrise and sunset photos, they said. I grabbed my pack and headed out. I've done search and rescue more times than I in and count. Usually it's simple. People get turned around, lose track of time, maybe twist an ankle. We find them cold and embarrassed, but alive. The fog got thicker as I moved deeper into the grove. My flashlight beam barely cut through it. Around me, the sequoias rose like the walls of a canyon, their red-brown bark disappearing into white nothing above. The forest was completely silent. No birds, no squirrels rustling in the understory, just my boots crunching on fallen needles and my own breathing. I found their camp as night fell completely. 3 tents neatly set up, a cold fire ring, and something that made my skin prickle. All their camera equipment, expensive stuff, arranged in a perfect circle around the base of an enormous sequoia. Not scattered like they'd left in a hurry, arranged, deliberately. I picked up one of the cameras, professional-grade Nikon. I checked the film counter, fully exposed. When I pointed my flashlight at the sequoia they'd been photographing, I saw something that made no sense. Deep gouges in the bark. Fresh ones. But not from any tool I recognized. They looked almost like claw marks, except they were 8 feet off the ground and ran in parallel lines longer than my arm. "Hello?" I called out. "This is Ranger Redwood. If anyone can hear me, call out." Nothing. Just fog and silence, and the feeling of being watched by the ancient trees themselves. I tried my radio. Static. Not unusual this deep in the grove. The massive sequoias play hell with radio signals. But there was something else underneath the static. A low hum, almost like the trees were singing. That's when I heard it. A voice, faint, coming from somewhere ahead, deeper in the grove. "Help!" I ran toward it, my flashlight bouncing crazily. The fog seemed to push back against me, thick and resistant. The voice came again, weaker now. "Please, help me." I found her wedged against the trunk of a giant sequoia, and what I saw made me stop cold. Lisa Chen. I recognized her from the permit photos. But something was terribly wrong. The bark of the tree, it was growing around her. Her left arm disappeared into the trunk up to her elbow. Not like she was stuck, but like the tree had swallowed it. Like her flesh and the wood had somehow merged. Her eyes were wide with terror, but when she tried to speak, all that came out was a wet, rattling sound. "Oh God! Lisa, I'm going to get you out." I grabbed her free arm and pulled. She screamed. It was the worst sound I've ever heard. Pure agony. I let go immediately, and she slumped against the trunk, gasping. "Don't," she managed to whisper. "It hurts. Can't move." The bark around her arm was warm to the touch. Warm and somehow pulsing, like a heartbeat. I had to get help. Had to get back to my truck, call this in, get a medical team out here. I turned to tell Lisa I'd be right back. That's when I saw the figure standing in the fog about 20 feet away. It was tall, maybe 8 feet, and it looked like it was made of bark and shadow and something else, something that moved wrong, like oil on water. Where its face should have been, there were just 2 dim points of light, like eyes made from foxfire fungus. It tilted its head, studying me. Then it stepped backward and simply merged with the trunk of a sequoia, disappearing completely. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran like hell back toward the trailhead, leaving Lisa Chen trapped in that tree. My flashlight died halfway back, and I had to navigate by memory in complete darkness, the fog pressing in from all sides. When I finally burst out onto the ranger station parking lot, Bob was waiting by his truck. "Diana, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you on the radio for 2 hours. 2 hours. I'd been gone maybe 30 minutes. "Bob," I said, trying to catch my breath, "we need to call this in. We need help. There's something in those trees." Bob didn't believe me at first. How could he? A woman stuck in a ditch. A figure made of bark? It sounded crazy even to me, and I'd seen it. But he couldn't argue with the GPS coordinates I'd marked or the terror in my voice. By dawn, we had a team of 6 rangers and 2 medics heading into Giant Forest. The fog had thinned slightly, enough to see maybe 50 feet ahead. We found Lisa Chen exactly where I'd left her. Except it was worse now. The tree had taken more of her. Both arms were gone into the trunk now, and roots had begun wrapping around her legs. Her eyes were open but glassy, unfocused. When the medic checked her pulse, he went pale. It's slow. Maybe 20 beats per minute. That's impossible. She should be dead. Can we cut her out? Bob asked. The medic pulled out a small saw and carefully touched it to the bark around Lisa's arm. The moment the blade bit in, Lisa's eyes snapped into focus, and she screamed. A sound that came from her throat and somehow also from the tree itself, a deep, resonating vibration that made my teeth ache. Blood ran from the cut bark. Human blood. Stop! I grabbed the medic's arm. You're cutting her, not the tree. They're connected somehow. That's when we heard the sounds. Movement in the fog. Footsteps, but wrong. Like branches creaking. Like wood dragging over wood, coming from multiple directions. Everyone back to back, Bob ordered, his hand moving to the gun on his belt. Stay together. They came out of the fog like nightmares made solid. 7 of them, 8 feet tall, bodies that looked carved from bark but moved like liquid, faces that were just suggestions of features in rough wood. Those same dim glowing eyes fixed on us. One of them opened what might have been a mouth. The sound that came out was like wind through dead branches, like the groan of a falling tree. But somehow it formed words. Leave. The grove. Leave our forest. The youngest ranger, Tommy Garcia, raised his gun. Don't move! I'm warning you! The creature moved faster than anything that size should move. 1 second it was 30 feet away. The next, it had Tommy by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Its fingers, they weren't fingers really, more like root tendrils, wrapped around his neck. Tommy's gun went off, the shot incredibly loud in the quiet forest. The bullet hit the creature's center mass and passed right through, leaving a hole that immediately sealed itself with new bark. Tommy? Bob fired 3 times. Same result. The bullets might as well have been hitting water. The creature drew Tommy close to its face. Its mouth opened wider, and I saw darkness inside. Not shadow, but absence, like looking into a hole in reality. Tommy started to scream. Then his scream got muffled as bark began forming over his face, spreading from where the creature touched him like frost across a window. Run! I yelled. Everyone back to the trailhead. Move! We ran. The medics grabbed Lisa and tried to pull her free, but she was too deeply rooted. Her eyes found mine. Go, she whispered. It's too late for me. But you can still. A root burst from the ground and wrapped around the lead medic's ankle. He went down hard and more roots erupted, dozens of them, reaching for all of us like hungry fingers. I looked back once as we fled. The creatures weren't chasing us. They were standing in a circle around Lisa and Tommy and the fallen medic, and the trees around them seemed to be moving, bending inward. The fog swirled, and for just a moment I saw the truth of it. They weren't creatures in the forest. They were the forest. They were part of it. Maybe they had always been part of it. We lost 3 people in the next hour. Janet Reeves got separated when the fog suddenly thickened into an impenetrable wall, cutting her off from the group. We heard her screaming for maybe 2 minutes. Then silence. Marcus Kim tried to climb a tree to get his bearings, to see over the fog. The bark under his hands turned soft and sticky like tar. He couldn't let go. We watched. Let his hands sink into the trunk, watched his eyes go wide with horror, watched bark begin spreading up his arms. Bob tried to cut him free, but the tree was too hard, the saw barely scratched it, and Marcus was screaming, begging us not to leave him. We had to. The roots were coming for us again, and we had to leave him there, still conscious, still aware, as the sequoia slowly swallowed him whole. Sarah Chen, Lisa's sister, who'd joined the rescue team, simply vanished. 1 second she was right behind me. The next, there was just empty trail. No sound, no sign of struggle, just gone. By the time we stumbled back to the ranger station, there were only 4 of us left. Me, Bob, 1 medic named Jennifer Park, and a ranger named Miguel Santos, who kept muttering prayers in Spanish under his breath. Bob immediately got on the radio to headquarters. "We need backup. We need static." Heavy, pulsing static with that same low hum underneath. Then a voice came through, but it wasn't anyone from headquarters. "Leave the grove. Leave our forest. Or become forest." Bob threw the radio across the room. "What the hell is happening?" Jennifer demanded. She was shaking, covered in dirt and blood from when Janet had grabbed her while being dragged away. "What are those things?" "I don't know," I said. But that was a lie. I was starting to understand, starting to remember things, stories my grandmother told me. She was half Yokuts, from the tribe that lived in these mountains for thousands of years before white people came. She used to say the old trees had guardians, spirits that protected the sacred groves. She said you had to ask permission before entering, had to leave offerings, had to respect the forest as a living thing. I'd laughed at those stories when I was young. Superstition, I'd thought. Old myths. "I need to talk to someone," I said. "There's a Yokuts elder, J. Osif Whitefeather. Lives in 3 Rivers. He might know what we're dealing with." "We're dealing with monsters," Miguel said. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. "We're dealing with trees that eat people. We're dealing with something that's been here a lot longer than we have," I said. And I think we pissed it off. Joseph Whitefeather lived in a small cabin on the edge of the park. He was 83 years old, nearly blind, and when I told him what I'd seen, he didn't seem surprised at all. "The tree walkers," he said, nodding slowly. "I wondered when they would wake again." "You've seen them before?" "My grandfather saw them. In 1878, when the loggers came. They took 200 men in a single month. The logging company said it was accidents, falling trees, equipment failures. But my grandfather knew. He tried to warn them. They didn't listen. They never do. He made us tea with hands that trembled from age, not fear. The tree walkers are not spirits, not exactly. They are the forest itself. The oldest sequoias, the really ancient ones, they're connected. Roots touch underground, share nutrients, share information. Some scientists call it the wood wide web. My people called it the forest mind. "You're saying the trees are conscious?" Bob asked. "Not like you or me, but aware, yes, and protective. Sequoias survive fires, survive droughts, survive everything, because they protect each other. The tree walkers are how they protect themselves from the only thing they can't survive. What's that? Us, humans. We are the only thing that can truly kill a sequoia. And the old trees, they remember. They remember when your people came with axes and saws. They remember being cut down for lumber, for stupid things like pencils and fence posts. They remember their family being destroyed." I thought about the photography group, but those people weren't loggers. They were just taking pictures. Joseph's milky eyes found mine with surprising accuracy. "Tell me, what have you heard about the Southern Grove lately, about the land near Congress Trail?" I felt my stomach sink. "There's a logging company, Sierra Timber. They've been surveying, trying to get permits to clear some of the old growth on private land adjacent to the park. And how close are they to getting those permits?" "The decision is supposed to come down next week." Joseph nodded. "The forest knows. It always knows. And it is afraid. Fear makes all living things dangerous, Ranger Redwood, even trees. Especially trees that have stood for 2,000 years and don't want to die. So what do we do? How do we stop them?" "You don't stop them. You make peace with them. You prove that not all humans want to destroy. But first," he reached into a drawer and pulled out something wrapped in deerskin. "You will need to go deeper, to the Heart Grove, where the oldest sequoia stands." He unwrapped the deerskin. Inside was a small pouch of what looked like tobacco mixed with herbs, and a knife with a handle carved from wood. The knife is made from a sequoia branch that fell naturally. The tree gave it willingly. It can cut through the tree walker's bark without harming them. And this, he held up the pouch, burn it as an offering. It may give you safe passage. May. I make no promises. "This is insane. Jennifer said. She'd been quiet until now, just listening. We should evacuate the entire park. Call in the National Guard. Something. And tell them what? I asked. That trees are killing people? They'll think we're crazy. By the time anyone believes us, more people will die. Bob stood up. Then we go tonight. We end this, whatever it takes. But Miguel shook his head. He hadn't said much since we arrived. Now he looked at each of us, his face pale. I'm not going back there. I can't. You didn't see Marcus's face when it started growing over him. You didn't hear Janet screaming from inside the tree. I can't do it. I didn't blame him. Part of me wanted to run to you. Wanted to get in my truck and drive until California was a memory. But I thought about Lisa Chen, still alive somewhere in that grove, trapped between human and tree. I thought about the photography group and Tommy and all the others. If I ran, how many more would die? You should stay here, I told Miguel. Keep trying to reach headquarters. Get help if you can. He looked relieved and ashamed at the same time. I'm sorry, it's okay, I said. And I meant it. So it was 3 of us who drove back to Giant Forest as sunset painted the sky orange and purple. Bob, Jennifer, and me. We parked at the trailhead and loaded up with everything we might need. Flashlights, rope, first aid supplies, flares. Bob and Jennifer both carried guns, though we all knew how useless they were. I had Joseph's knife and the pouch of herbs. It didn't feel like enough. The fog was back, thicker than ever. It swallowed us the moment we left the parking lot. Jennifer kept close, her flashlight beam barely penetrating the white wall around us. Which way? She asked. I closed my eyes and listened. The forest was making that sound again, that low hum just at the edge of hearing. It was coming from deeper in from the heart of Giant Forest, where the oldest trees lived. This way, I said, and started walking. The forest changed around us as we went deeper. The trees got bigger, older, their bark deeply furrowed with age. The fog moved strangely here, swirling in patterns that seemed almost deliberate. And I started seeing faces, not the tree walkers. These were in the bark itself. Human faces, stretched and distorted, mouths open in silent screams. I recognized some of them. A photographer I'd found the equipment of. Marcus Kim, his features barely visible but unmistakable. Lisa Chen, her face emerging from the trunk like a carving coming to life. They're all still alive, Jennifer whispered. Oh God, they're all still alive in there. Keep moving, Bob said. His voice was steady, but I could hear the fear underneath. Don't look at them. But it was hard not to look. There were so many, and not just from the last few days. Older faces, too, weathered and worn, some barely more than suggestions in the wood. How long had this been happening? How many people had the forest taken over the years? We reached a clearing. In the center stood a sequoia that made all the others look small. It had to be over 300 feet tall, maybe 40 feet across at the base. The General Sherman tree, the largest living thing on Earth by volume, and around it stood the tree walkers, dozens of them, maybe 100. They formed a circle around the massive trunk, completely still, those dim eyes all focused on us. We come in peace, I said. My voice sounded tiny in that clearing. We come to talk, to make an offering. I pulled out Joseph's pouch and poured some of the herbs into my hand. The tree walkers didn't move, but I felt their attention sharpen. I struck a match and lit the herbs. Sweet smoke rose into the fog. The scent was pleasant, sage and something else, something wild and green that reminded me of spring in the mountains. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the largest tree walker, the one standing directly in front of the General Sherman, stepped forward. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once, from the trees themselves. Why should we trust you? Because I've dedicated my life to protecting this forest, I said. Because I know what Sierra Timber wants to do, and I'll stop them. Because not all humans want to destroy. Some of us want to save what's left. Words are wind. Actions Our roots. The tree walker reached out one massive hand. Not threatening, but offering. Waiting. I understood. It wanted proof. Wanted to see inside me, the way the trees saw into each other through their connected roots. "Diana, don't," Bob started. But I stepped forward and took the tree walker's hand. The world exploded in it. Oh, green. I was in 1,000 places at once. I was a sequoia seedling pushing through ash-covered soil after a fire, reaching desperately for sunlight. I was a mature tree feeling the saw bite into my trunk, feeling the agony of being cut down, of dying slowly as my sap bled out. I was roots underground, touching other roots, sharing nutrients, sharing warnings, sharing the memories of the forest. I felt their fear. The trees were terrified. Sierra timber was just the latest threat in a long history of threats. For 2,000 years, they'd survived everything: fires, droughts, bark beetles, lightning. But humans were different. Humans killed without need, killed for profit, killed because they saw the forest as resources instead of life. The tree walkers weren't monsters. They were defense mechanisms, immune systems. When the forest felt threatened enough, when the old tree's survival instinct kicked in, the tree walkers manifested. They'd done it before. In 1878 against the loggers, in 1924 against a lumber baron who tried to buy park land for private cutting. The forest had won both times by making itself too dangerous to touch. And now they were doing it again. But I also felt something else. Pain. The people they'd taken, Lisa Chen, Marcus Kim, Tommy Garcia, all the others. They weren't dead. They were integrated into the forest network, their consciousness spread out among the trees. They were aware, trapped, screaming in a way that had no sound. The tree walker was showing me this deliberately, showing me what they'd done, what they were, and giving me a choice. I could join them, become part of the forest, add my knowledge and my dedication to their collective. I would live as long as the sequoias lived, thousands of years protecting what I loved. Or I could fight, try to stop them, and probably die in the attempt. But there was a third option. I saw it in the spaces between the thoughts, in the network of connections. The forest didn't want to kill. It wanted to survive. If I could prove that humans would protect the grove, really protect it, and the tree walkers could rest, could return to sleep until they were needed again. I pulled my hand free, gasping. I was back in the clearing, Jennifer and Bob looking at me with terrified expressions. How long was I? 20 minutes, Bob said. You were just standing there with your eyes rolled back. We thought you were gone. 20 minutes. It had felt like hours, years. I looked at the tree walker. I understand now. You're afraid. You think all humans are your enemy. But we're not. I can help you. I can stop Sierra timber. How? The voice of the forest demanded. You are one human. They are many. They have law, money, power. I have something better, I said. I have the truth. I turned to Jennifer. Your camera. You still have it? She pulled out a small Polaroid from her pack, the kind we use to document search and rescue scenes. Take pictures, I said. Everything. The faces in the trees, the tree walkers, all of it. Diana, what are you? Trust me. Bob, I need you to get to a phone. Call every newspaper in California. Call the TV stations. Tell them there's a major story breaking at Sequoia National Park. Tell them people have died under suspicious circumstances, and we have proof that Sierra timber is involved. But they're not. They don't need to know that, yet. We just need to get media attention here, lots of it. If enough people are watching, if this becomes a national story, Sierra timber won't be able to touch this place. The political pressure will be too much. I looked back at the tree walker. Give me 3 days, just 3 days. If I can't stop the logging permits, if I can't protect this grove, then I'll join you, willingly. I'll become part of the forest and I'll help you defend it. The tree walkers conferred silently, their thoughts flowing through the network faster than words. Finally, the large one spoke. 3 days. Then you return and bring proof. Wait, Bob said. What about the people in the trees? The ones you've taken? If Diana succeeds, will you let them go? Silence. Then, they are forest now. Cannot separate. Without death. Lisa Chen's face appeared in the bark of the tree nearest to me. Her eyes moved, looking at me. Her mouth shaped words I could almost hear through the wood. Help them. Stop it. Please. I felt tears on my face. I'm sorry, I whispered to her. I'm so sorry. We left the grove at a run. Jennifer's pockets were full of Polaroids, damning, impossible images that would either save the forest or get us committed to a psychiatric hospital. But we didn't have 3 days. We had less. When we got back to the ranger station, Miguel was gone. There was blood on the floor, and a message carved into my desk with something sharp, maybe claws, maybe roots. The forest comes. Through the windows I could see fog rolling down from giant forest like a living thing, swallowing the road, moving toward the visitor center where 50 tourists were currently staying overnight. The tree walkers had run out of patience. We have to evacuate, Jennifer said. Get everyone out before the power cut out. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red. And in that red light, I saw them coming through the fog. Tree walkers. Dozens of them. Moving toward the buildings. Bob grabbed his radio. All units, this is Bob Ashworth. We have a code black. I repeat, code black. Evacuate all visitors immediately. This is not a drill. But even as he said it, I knew it was too late. The tree walkers were too fast, the fog too thick. People would panic. They'd run into the forest, get separated, get lost, get taken. Unless I could stop it. I grabbed Joseph's knife and ran outside, positioning myself between the approaching tree walkers and the visitor center. Behind me, I could hear Bob yelling for me to come back, Jennifer screaming my name. I held up the knife. Stop. I have your answer. I can prove it. Right now. The tree walkers paused. The lead one tilted its head, waiting. You want to protect the forest? I shouted. Then take me, right now. Make me part of it. I'll use everything I know. Everything I've learned in 14 years to help you defend this place. But you have to let the others go. All of them. The tourists, the rangers, everyone. Let them leave safely. Diana, no! Bob had come out after me. You can't... It's the only way, I said quietly. Then louder, to the tree walkers. Do we have a deal? The forest considered. Around us, the fog swirled, and I could feel the weight of ancient thoughts pressing down. Yes. The tree walker finally said. Come, join, become forest. It reached for me. I took its hand. The transformation didn't hurt as much as I expected. It felt like sinking into warm water, like falling asleep after a long hike. I felt bark beginning to form on my skin, felt roots starting to grow from my feet, anchoring me to the soil. Felt my consciousness spreading out, touching the vast network of the forest mind. But I also felt myself fighting it. Not to escape, I'd made my choice, but to stay myself, to keep enough of Diana Redwood intact that I could still think, still reason, still act. And slowly, impossibly, I found a balance. I was part of the forest now. I could feel every tree in Giant Forest, could sense the visitors being guided safely out of the park, through paths that appeared in the fog just for them. I could feel Lisa Chen and Marcus Kim and all the others, their consciousness mixed with bark and wood, but I was still me. It worked, I said, though I wasn't sure if I said it out loud or just through the forest network. You can let them go now. The people. Let them leave. The tree walkers hesitated. For 2,000 years, they'd known only threat from humans. Trust didn't come easily. I'm part of you now, I told them. We're the same. And I'm telling you, if you let them go, if you show mercy, I can use that. I can tell the world that the forest protects those who respect it but welcomes those who come in peace. It'll be more powerful than fear. People will fight to save this place. It took time. The forest mind moved slowly, considering everything from multiple angles. But eventually, gradually, I felt agreement ripple through the network. Over the next 3 days, something remarkable happened. Bob and Jennifer got the story out, using Jennifer's photographs as proof. The media descended on Sequoia National Park. The story was sensational. Mysterious deaths, disappearances, and photos that seemed to show something impossible. But I made sure they got the right story. Through dreams, through visions, through subtle manipulations of the forest itself, I guided certain journalists to certain conclusions. Yes, people had died. Yes, something strange was in those trees. But only those who came to harm the forest, those who came with respect, with wonder, with love for nature, they walked away safely. The public ate it up. Environmental groups rallied. Celebrities posted about it. Within a week, Sierra Timber withdrew their permit applications, claiming the area was too controversial to develop. The forest was safe. As for me, I learned to exist in two worlds. Most of the time, I'm part of the forest network, spread out among the sequoias, feeling their slow growth, their ancient patience. But when I need to, I can pull myself together, become solid enough to walk, to talk, to interact with the human world. I'm still a ranger, technically. Bob made sure of that, filing paperwork that listed me as on extended medical leave. I live in a small cabin at the edge of giant forest, growing vegetables that taste better than anything I've ever eaten because I know exactly what nutrients they need. I visit the grove every day. Have to. If I go more than 24 hours without touching the old trees, I start to feel weak, disconnected. I'm part of them now. Or better or worse. Lisa Chen and the others, they're still in there, still conscious, still trapped. I talk to them sometimes through the network. They don't blame me. They understand I did what I had to do. Some of them have even come to accept their new existence, finding peace in the slow, steady rhythm of tree life. But it haunts me. Every day, it haunts me. The tree walkers mostly sleep now, but I can feel them just beneath the surface, ready to wake if the forest is threatened again. And I'll be here to help them if they need it. I'm the bridge between human and forest, between civilization and wild, between the world that was and the world that's coming. Sometimes hikers report seeing a woman in a ranger uniform walking the trails at dawn, a woman whose feet don't quite touch the ground, whose skin has a faint pattern like bark. They take pictures, but the images always come out blurred, like I'm not entirely there. They're right. I'm not. I'm something else now, something in between. And I'm watching, always watching. Because the forest has learned to trust one human. Just one. And it's my job to make sure that trust is never betrayed, to make sure that what happened in October 1977 never has to happen again. The sequoias will stand for another 1,000 years if I have anything to say about it. They've survived ice ages and droughts and fires. They'll survive us too, as long as someone stands between them and the axes. As long as someone remembers that the oldest living things on Earth deserve protection, as long as someone is willing to become something more or something less than human to keep them safe. My name is Diana Redwood, and I am the forest now. My name is Clayton Stormwind, and I've been a ranger in the Chattahoochee National Forest for 18 years. I'm telling you this story because someone needs to know what really happened up on Blood Mountain in November of 1981. The official report says it was a bear attack. That's a lie. I started this job back in 1963, right after I got home from Vietnam. I was an Army medic over there, saw things that still wake me up at 3 in the morning. The mountains seemed like a good place to forget. Quiet, peaceful, far away from people and their problems. For the most part, it worked. I'm 45 now. Got 2 teenage boys I see every other weekend since the divorce. My ex-wife says I'm married to these mountains, and maybe she's right. I know every trail marker from Springer Mountain to Neal's Gap. I've pulled 47 people out of situations that should have killed them. I've faced down black bears, treated snake bites, and rappelled down cliff faces in the middle of ice storms. But I never believed in the old stories. The Cherokee folks who still live around here, they've got legends, stories about things in these mountains that aren't quite natural. Bone collectors, they call them. Spirit creatures that wake up hungry every few decades. My buddy Dennis Rockwell, half Cherokee and the best tracker I ever met, he'd tell these stories around the fire, and I'd just smile and nod. Superstition, I thought. Old tales to keep kids from wandering too far into the woods. I was wrong. It was late November when I got the call. A family, the Hartleys, had missed their check-in. Experienced hikers, all of them. Father, mother, and their 12-year-old daughter Emma. They'd been camping near Blood Mountain, right around mile marker 752 of the Appalachian Trail, elevation 4,458 feet. I knew the spot well. The weather was turning bad. Temperature had been dropping all week from a mountain, a D40 degrees down to somewhere in the teens. A winter storm was rolling in from the northwest, and the forecast said we might see snow by nightfall. I grabbed my gear, medical kit, emergency shelter, magnesium fire starter, and my .357 service revolver, and radioed it in. Charlie 7 responding to missing persons, Blood Mountain Wilderness. Estimate 6 hours to reach last known location. The dispatcher's voice crackled back. Copy that, Charlie 7. Be advised, radio dead zones reported in that sector. Call in every 30 minutes. I should have known right then something was off. Those dead zones weren't normal. The mountains play tricks with radio signals sometimes, sure, but not like this, not in perfect patterns. Dennis met me at the trailhead. He looked worried, which wasn't like him. Dennis had 20 years in these woods, same as me. Nothing rattled him. You feel that? He asked, looking up at the sky. Storm coming in, I said. We better move fast. Not the storm. He shook his head. Pressure's all wrong. Temperature, too. It's 20 degrees colder here than it should be. I checked my thermometer. He was right. 15 degrees when it should have been 35. No wind to explain it either. Probably just a cold pocket, I said. These mountains get weird sometimes. Dennis didn't answer. He just started walking, his hand resting on the hunting knife at his belt. We hiked for 3 hours before we found their campsite. The sun was getting low, casting long shadows through the rhododendron thickets. The Hartley camp was set up in a clearing near a granite cliff face. Good spot, sheltered from wind, close to water. But something was very wrong. The tent was still standing, but the door flap hung open. Their food was scattered everywhere, but not like an animal had gotten into it. It was arranged, cans in a perfect circle, packages laid out in straight, at lines, like someone had been playing with it. Bears don't do that, Dennis said quietly. I knelt down, looking at the ground. No animal tracks, no bear scat, no sign of a struggle except for the trees. Deep gouges ran down the bark of 3 pines surrounding the campsite. Not claw marks. These were different. Scraping marks like something had dragged fingernails made of stone down the wood, and they started 8 feet up. What could reach that high? I asked. Dennis was staring at something on the ground. When I walked over, I felt my stomach turn. Teeth, human teeth. 3 of them embedded in the bark of a fallen log like someone had hammered them in. We need to find that family, I said. Now! That's when we heard it. A voice, high and young, calling from somewhere up the mountain. Help! Please! Somebody help me! Emma. We ran. The voice led us uphill, through dense undergrowth that tore at our clothes. My radio was going crazy. Nothing but static and weird sounds like chanting in a language I didn't know. I turned it off. Emma, I shouted. Emma Hartley, keep calling out, we're coming. Help, please, he's coming back. The words stopped me cold. He, not it, not they. He. Who's coming back, Emma? Dennis called out. No answer. just the wind moving through bare branches, making them click and scrape together like bones. We found her jacket first. It was hanging from a branch 25 feet up an oak tree. The fabric was torn, ripped right off her body by something strong enough to lift a 12-year-old girl into the air. "This isn't right," Dennis said. His voice was shaking. I'd never heard him scared before. "Clayton, we need to leave. Right now." "There's a little girl up here somewhere." "No," he interrupted. "There's not. Not anymore. Listen." I stopped moving, stopped breathing, listened. Nothing. No birds, no squirrels, no insects. The forest was completely silent except for the wind. And the temperature, God, it had dropped another 10 degrees in the last hour. "Something's wrong with this place," Dennis continued. "My grandfather, Todd, told me stories about Blood Mountain, about why it's called that. The Cherokee used to have a burial ground up here, back before the settlers came. Sacred ground. Then white folks dug it up in the 1890s looking for gold or artifacts or who knows what. They scattered the bones. The elders said something woke up after that. Something hungry." "Dennis, those are just—" A sound cut me off. A deep vibration coming from the ground itself. Like the mountain was humming. Rocks near my feet shifted, rolling uphill instead of down. "That's not an earthquake," I whispered. "No," Dennis agreed. "It's not." We found the first body 10 minutes later. Mr. Hartley was lying at the base of a granite outcropping, his body positioned like he'd been carefully laid out. At first I thought maybe he'd fallen, hit his head. But when I got closer, when I really looked, I saw what had happened to him. His bones were visible through his skin. All of them. Like someone had drained the flesh away, leaving just a thin covering over his skeleton. His eye sockets were hollow. His mouth hung open, and when I looked inside, his teeth were gone. I've seen combat wounds. I've seen bodies torn apart by explosives and crushed by vehicles. This was worse. "His marrow's gone," I said, my medical training kicking in even as my mind tried to reject what I was seeing. Something drained the calcium right out of his bones. They're like rubber. When I touched his arm, it bent wrong, folded like it had no structure inside. Dennis was looking at something behind me. When I turned around, I saw Mrs. Hartley. She was worse, much worse. Her body was hanging upside down from a tree branch, suspended by her ankles. Below her, on the ground, was a perfect circle of small bones, finger bones, I realized, arranged in a spiral pattern. "We're leaving," Dennis said. "Right now. We'll come back with the sheriff. With dogs. With—" "Help! Help me, please!" Emma's voice again. Closer this time, coming from a thicket of rhododendrons so dense I could barely see into it. I moved toward it before I could think. "Clayton, don't." Dennis grabbed my arm. "That's not her. Can't you tell? It's too perfect, too clear. Sound doesn't carry like that in these mountains." He was right. The voice didn't echo, didn't fade. Each word was identical in volume and tone. "Help me! The tall man is coming! The bone man!" "It's using her voice," Dennis said. "It took her, and now it's using her to bring us closer." My flashlight was flickering. On, off. In a rhythm, like a heartbeat. When I looked at my compass, the needle was spinning counterclockwise, faster and faster. That's when I saw it. Just for a second. A shape moving between the trees about 50 yards uphill. It was tall, 10 feet at least. Thin, made of pieces that clicked and scraped together as it moved. "Did you see that?" I breathed. "Yeah," Dennis whispered. "I saw it." The shape stopped, turned toward us. Where its head should be, I saw empty sockets glowing with a dim, phosphorescent light. Not eyes, just holes. Gaps in the darkness that somehow shone. Then it screamed. The sound was like nothing I'd ever heard. high and low at the same time, like 100 voices crying out together. The temperature dropped so fast that my breath came out as ice crystals. The ground shook. Trees cracked and groaned. We ran. I don't know how long we ran. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Everything was wrong. Paths that should have led downhill curved back up. Trees I knew I'd passed 3 times. Rocks that moved when I wasn't looking at them. Finally, we stopped in a small clearing. My lungs burned. My legs felt like they were made of lead. What the hell was that thing? I gasped. Dennis was looking at his hands. They were shaking. Kitua, he said. The bone thief. My grandfather saw it once, back in 1951. Said it comes every 30 years to feed. Builds itself bigger with every person it takes. That's impos. Sybil, that's... You saw it, Clayton, you saw it! I had. God help me, I had. A new sound reached us. Scraping, clicking, getting closer. And underneath it, barely audible, Emma's voice. Help me. Please. I'm still alive. We found the cave entrance just after midnight. The storm had hit hard. Snow coming down so thick I could barely see Dennis 3 feet ahead of me. The temperature had plummeted to somewhere around -10, which should have been impossible for November in Georgia. But nothing about this night was following normal rules. The creature, the Kitua, Dennis called it, had been hunting us for hours. We'd catch glimpses of it moving through the trees, hear the awful clicking of its body, feel the temperature drop whenever it got close. Twice it had gotten within 30 yards before we managed to run, but we weren't running anymore. We were being herded. It's driving us somewhere, Dennis said, his teeth chattering. Like wolves with deer. It wants us to go this way. He was right. Every time we tried to head downhill toward the ranger station, the thing would appear in front of us, forcing us higher, deeper into the wilderness. That's when we found the opening in the cliff face. A crack in the granite, just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. Warm air was flowing out of it, carrying a smell that made my stomach turn. Old bones. Decay, something else I couldn't identify. We're not going in there, Dennis said. Then we heard Emma again, her real voice this time, not the perfect copy. She was screaming, crying, and it was coming from inside the cave. He's hurting me. Please, it hurts so much. I looked at Dennis. His face was gray with cold and fear, but I saw him make the decision at the same moment I did. We go in, I said. We get her out. We run like hell. If we can, he added quietly. The cave was bigger than it looked from outside. Much bigger. The narrow entrance opened up into a passage tall enough to stand in, wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side. The walls were smooth, like they'd been carved, and they were covered in symbols. Cherokee writing, Dennis said. Old Cherokee from before the removal, death prayers, warnings, names of the dead. We followed the passage downward. The air got warmer. The smell got worse. My flashlight kept flickering, but there was another source of light ahead, a faint blue-green glow coming from deeper in the mountain. Foxfire, Dennis whispered. Fungus that grows on rotting wood. But I've never seen it this bright. The passage opened into a cavern so large I couldn't see the far wall. The floor was covered, completely covered, in bones. Human bones. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Skulls stacked in pyramids. Femurs arranged in geometric patterns. Ribs laid out like the spokes of wheels. The foxfire grew on all of them, making the entire cave glow with that sickly light. How many people? I asked. Centuries worth, Dennis answered. This thing's been feeding since before the Cherokee were forced out, maybe longer. Emma was in the center of the cavern. She was trapped in some kind of cage made from bones, human bones woven together like basket weaving. She was alive, but barely. Her skin looked gray, translucent. I could see her skeleton through it, and even from a distance I could tell something was wrong with her bones. They looked soft, weak. Emma, I called out. She turned her head slowly. Her eyes focused on me. Ranger? Her voice was so quiet I could barely hear it. Is that really you? Or is he pretending again? It's really us, honey. We're going to get you out. You can't. She started crying. He's drinking my bones. Every night he comes back and drinks a little more. I can feel them getting softer. Soon I won't be able to move at all. Then he'll take them all. Dennis was already moving forward, his knife out, heading for the bone cage. That's when the Kitua came. It rose up from the floor itself, bones flowing, together like water, assembling into that impossible tall shape. 15 feet high now, maybe more. Built from hundreds of skeletons, all fused together into something that looked almost human but wrong in every way. Its skull, if you could call it that, was made from at least 20 different skulls, melted together. Empty eye sockets glowed with that same foxfire light. Its arms were too long, made from dozens of femurs bound together with what looked like dried tendons. Its fingers were sharpened ribs. And it screamed again, that terrible sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Dennis didn't hesitate. He ran at it, knife raised, shouting something in Cherokee. A war cry, maybe, or a prayer. The creature moved faster than anything that big should move. One of those long arms whipped out and grabbed Dennis by the chest. He screamed. I saw his shirt start to smoke where the thing touched him, frost spreading across his body, his skin turning gray. I fired my revolver, all 6 shots, right at the creature's center mass. The bullets hit. I heard them impact, but they just disappeared into the mass of bones. No damage, no effect at all. Dennis was still screaming. His bones were visible now through his skin, getting darker, denser, as the thing drained the calcium from his body into itself. "Run!" he choked out. "Clayton, take Emma and—" The creature crushed him, just closed its hand, and Dennis stopped making sounds. It dropped his body, and I watched in horror as his skeleton tore itself out of his flesh and stood up. Dennis's skeleton turned to look at me with empty sockets. Then it started walking toward me, bones clicking together. I ran, but not down the passage, toward Emma, toward the bone cage. The creature roared. Dennis's skeleton wasn't alone anymore. Other skeletons were pulling themselves out of the piles on the floor. Dozens of them. An army of he dead, all moving toward me. I reached the cage and started tearing at the bones with my bare hands. They were cold, so cold they burned my skin. But I kept pulling, breaking them, until there was a gap big enough for Emma. "Can you move?" I asked. She tried to stand. Her legs buckled. "My bones, they're too soft." I picked her up. She weighed almost nothing. Her body felt wrong, like picking up a bag of jelly. The skeletons were closing in. The Kitua was moving toward us, each step shaking the ground. My only exit was the passage we came from, and it was blocked by at least 20 animated skeletons. Then I remembered something Dennis had said. Right before we entered the cave, he'd been muttering in Cherokee. Not a war cry. A prayer. I didn't know the words, but I remembered the rhythm, the cadence. I started repeating it, fumbling over the syllables, probably getting it all wrong. But something changed. The foxfire light flickered. The Kitua stopped moving, and from the walls of the cave, new shapes started to emerge. These weren't skeletons. They were something else, translucent, glowing with a different kind of light, warm, like sunlight. And they were armed with weapons made of that same light. Cherokee warriors, spirits, the ones Dennis said watched over this place. "Thank you," I whispered. The spirit warriors attacked the bone skeletons. I didn't wait to see who would win. I ran for the passage, Emma in my arms, as the sounds of battle echoed behind us. I made it 20 yards before the Kitua caught up. It came through the wall, literally through solid rock like it wasn't even there. The warrior spirits had destroyed most of the animated skeletons, but they couldn't stop the Kitua itself. It was too strong, too old. I set Emma down as gently as I could and turned to face it. The creature had grown even larger, feeding on Dennis's bones. It was 20 feet tall now, scraping the ceiling of the passage. Its body was a nightmare of human remains. Hundreds of people, all stolen over centuries, all fused into this thing. And I could see them. Individual faces in the mass, screaming, trapped. "The Cherokee shaman," a voice said behind me. I turned. One of the spirit warriors had followed us. He looked solid now, more real. His face was scarred, old, wise. "The Kituwa," he continued in perfect English. "It was one of us long ago, a shaman who broke the sacred laws. He consumed the bones of his enemies to steal their strength. The spirits punished him, cursed him to hunger forever. He became what you see." "How do I kill it?" "You cannot. Not with weapons of metal or wood." The warrior spirit pointed at the creature. "But he is strongest during the harvest. When he feeds, he becomes vulnerable. His core, the original bones, his first skeleton, is exposed." "Where?" "In his chest, the oldest bones, 500 years old. Destroy them and he will collapse." The Kituwa was advancing. Each step sent cracks running through the stone floor. The temperature had dropped so low that ice was forming on the walls. "I'll need to get close," I said. "He will drain you. Your bones will become his. You will join us in his prison." "Will it save the girl?" The spirit warrior looked at Emma, huddled against the wall, barely conscious. Then he nodded. "Yes. If you succeed, his hold on her will break." "Then I guess we'd better succeed." The warrior pressed his hand against my chest. Warmth flooded through me. Not just heat, but something more. Strength. Purpose. His eyes met mine. "You fight well, soldier. Your dead brothers walk with you." Then he faded, rejoining the battle in the main cavern. I turned to face the Kituwa. It had stopped advancing, watching me, waiting. "Come on, you bastard," I said. "I survived Vietnam. I've got nothing left to be afraid of." That was a lie. I was terrified. But terror makes you sharp, keeps you alive. The creature lunged. Those long arms swept toward me, fingers like spears. I dove under them, rolling across the rough stone. My hands closed on something, a bone from the floor. A femur, old and heavy. The Kituwa spun faster than something that size should move. Its hand caught my shoulder. The cold was instant and absolute. I felt my bones start to freeze, felt the calcium being drawn out of them. But I also felt the warrior spirit's gift. The warmth he'd given me pushed back against the draining effect, slowed it down, bought me time. Not much, but enough. I swung the bone like a club, aiming for the creature's center mass. It connected with a crack like thunder. The Kituwa staggered, and for just a second, its chest opened up, the bones there shifting apart. Inside, I saw it. A skeleton smaller than the rest. Ancient bones, brown with age. Cherokee burial ornaments still wrapped around the wrists and neck. The shaman's original body. The Kituwa realized what I'd seen. It roared and grabbed me with both hands. The cold intensified. I felt my shoulder bones start to crumble, my ribs crack. The pain was beyond anything I'd experienced, but I still had the femur, and I still had one good arm. I drove it forward like a spear, straight into the gap in the creature's chest, aimed for those ancient bones, the shaman's heart, if he still had one. The bone spear punched through the old rib cage with a sound like breaking glass. Everything stopped. The Kituwa's scream started low and built to a crescendo that shook dust from the ceiling. Its grip released. I fell, hitting the ground hard enough to knock the wind out of me. The creature was coming apart. All those bones, centuries of victims, separating, falling away like leaves in a storm. The foxfire light faded. The cold receded, and I heard voices, hundreds of them, thousands, saying the same thing. Thank you. The skeletons collapsed into piles of clean white bones. Peaceful. Finally, at rest. In the center of it all, the shaman's ancient skeleton crumbled to dust. I crawled to Emma. She was still breathing, and already her skin was looking better. More color, more life. "Is it over?" she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart," I said. "It's over." I was lying. I could feel it in my bones, literally. They'd never be the same. The Kitua had left its mark on me. But Emma was alive. That was enough. We stumbled out of the cave together into the cold mountain dawn. The snow had stopped. The sun was rising over Blood Mountain, and we were alive. The official report says a rabid bear killed the Hartley family. It says Dennis Rockwell died heroically trying to rescue the daughter. It says I found Emma wandering in shock and brought her out. That's the story the Park Service wanted. That's the story the sheriff wrote down. That's the story Emma's grandparents accepted when they came to take her home. Nobody wanted to know about the cave. When I tried to tell them, they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. The psychiatrist they made me see said it was trauma. Combat flashbacks mixed with altitude sickness and hypothermia. Very understandable. Very treatable. I stopped trying to explain after that. But I left a detailed account in the park archives, sealed in an envelope marked Blood Mountain Incident, November 1981. Maybe someday when it happens again, because I know it will happen again, someone will read it and believe. Emma spent 6 months in physical therapy. Her bones recovered mostly. The doctors said it was a miracle she survived exposure to sub-freezing temperatures. They couldn't explain why her calcium levels had been so dangerously low, but they fixed it with supplements and time. I visit her sometimes. She's 17 now, living with her grandparents in Atlanta. She doesn't talk about that night, but sometimes I catch her staring at shadows with an expression I recognize. She knows. She remembers. And she believes. As for me, I took early retirement 6 months after the incident. My bones never fully recovered either. I walk with a limp now. My joints ache when the weather changes. And I have arthritis in my shoulder, the one the Kitua grabbed, that no amount of medication can touch. Small price to pay for survival. I still have nightmares, but they're different now. Not just Vietnam anymore. Now I dream about bones clicking together in the dark, about voices calling for help that aren't quite human, about things that wear the faces of the dead. I moved to a cabin on the edge of the national forest. Couldn't leave the mountains entirely, they're still in my blood. But I avoid Blood Mountain. Haven't been back since that night. Other rangers have reported strange things up there, though. Hikers who hear voices calling for help but never find anyone. Cold spots that don't make meteorological sense. Bones arranged in patterns that couldn't be natural. And every 30 years, Dennis was right about that, someone disappears near that cave. The reports go back to the 1890s, regular as clockwork. 1951, Dennis's grandfather saw it. 1981, I fought it. 2011 will be the next cycle. I tried to warn the new rangers. Tried to tell them to close that section of trail when November comes. But nobody listens to crazy old Clayton Stormwind with his war trauma and his superstitions. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe some things are better left alone. But sometimes when the wind is right, I swear I can hear Dennis's voice from up on Blood Mountain. Not calling for help, just warning. It's waking up, he seems to say. It's always waking up. I've started keeping track of the dates, making notes, watching the news for missing hikers near Blood Mountain. Because the thing about curses, real curses, not fairy tale nonsense, is that they don't end just because you want them to. The Cherokee shaman is gone, destroyed. But the hunger he created? That's still there. Still waiting in the dark places of the mountain. Still building itself from borrowed bones. I sleep with my .357 on the nightstand now, even though I know bullets won't help. And I keep a bag packed by the door, medical supplies, emergency gear. Cherokee blessing prayers Dennis taught me, written on a piece of paper I've read so many times the words are starting to fade. Just in case someone needs help. Just in case it happens again. Because it will happen again. The mountains remember. The stones remember. And somewhere deep in that cave on Blood Mountain, in the places where the warrior spirits can't reach, something old and hungry is sleeping, waiting for November, waiting to harvest. My name is Marcus Frostbane, and I've spent 16 years in the Alaska wilderness. People always laugh at my last name, say it sounds like something from a video game. My grandmother gave it to our family, though. She was Athabascan, born on the tundra, and she said names have power. Names can protect you or doom you. I wish I'd listened to her stories more carefully. It's February 1984, and I'm stationed at Denali National Park, 7,000 feet up Mount McKinley. I'm a ranger, but not the kind you're thinking of. I don't give tours or hand out maps. I'm the guy they call when someone's dying on the mountain, when a climber falls into a crevasse, when a blizzard catches a group without shelter, when someone needs to be pulled out of the ice before hypothermia turns them into a statue. I'm 43 years old, never married. The job doesn't really allow for it. I trained Air Force pilots in survival before this, taught them how to stay alive if they went down in the Arctic. I've been in situations where the cold was so bad your spit freezes before it hits the ground, where the wind cuts through 3 layers of clothing like they're not even there. I thought I knew cold. I thought I knew danger. I was wrong. The base camp sits at the edge of the glacier field, a cluster of heated shelters connected by rope lines. It's built to withstand anything nature throws at it. Right now, we're in the middle of a polar night, 22 hours of darkness every day. The sun comes up for maybe 2 hours, barely clears the horizon, then drops again. The thermometer outside reads -60 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold enough to kill you in minutes if you're not prepared. I'm eating dinner when the radio crackles. It's Sarah from the ranger station in Talkeetna, 200 miles south. Her voice sounds worried. Marcus, we've got a problem. That climbing expedition, the that went up 3 days ago. They're overdue. I put down my coffee. How overdue? 12 hours. They were supposed to check in at noon. That's not good, but it's not panic time yet. Radios fail. People get delayed. But Sarah isn't finished. Their last transmission was weird, Marcus. The leader said something was following them. He said the tracks didn't look right, said they didn't look human. I feel something cold touch my spine that has nothing to do with the temperature. What do you mean, not human? That's all he said before the signal cut out. We tried reaching them again. Nothing. I'm already pulling on my gear. I'm going up. Get me their last known position. Marcus, there's another thing. The Aurora's going crazy tonight. Satellites are scrambled. You won't have GPS or communication once you leave base camp. I've got a compass and a map. I'll manage. What I don't tell Sarah is that the animals have been acting strange for days. The Arctic foxes that usually scavenge around camp are gone. The ravens that circle overhead looking for scraps vanished. Yesterday I saw a caribou running full speed away from the mountain, its eyes rolling white with terror. Animals know things before people do. My grandmother taught me that. I load my snowmobile with supplies, emergency shelter, high-calorie rations, medical kit, flares, and my rifle. A .375 HH, big enough to stop a polar bear. We don't usually get polar bears this far south, but with climate acting weird, you never know. The wind hits me the moment I leave camp. It's not natural wind. It moves in patterns, like something breathing. The aurora overhead is brighter than I've ever seen it, green and purple waves that light up the snow like daylight. Beautiful and wrong at the same time. I follow the coordinates Sarah gave me. The expedition's advanced base camp is 5 miles up the glacier. Should take me 40 minutes. It takes 3 hours because the wind keeps pushing me back. I find their camp just after midnight. The aurora is so bright I don't need my headlamp. The tents are still, standing. That's the first thing I notice. If they'd been caught in an avalanche or a storm, everything would be scattered or buried. Instead, the camp looks normal, organized, like people just stepped away for a minute. But my gut is screaming that something's wrong. I kill the snowmobile engine and listen. In the Arctic, you can hear things from miles away. Sound travels differently in the extreme cold. But now I hear nothing. No wind, no ice cracking, nothing. The silence is worse than any scream. I approach the main tent, my rifle ready. Hello? Anyone here? This is Ranger Frostbane. No answer. Inside the tent, the camping stove is still warm. There's a pot of soup that hasn't frozen yet, even though it's -50 outside. That means they left recently, maybe in the last hour. But why would 5 experienced climbers abandon hot food in the middle of the night? I see the gear next. It's arranged in a circle around the tent, pointing outward. Ice axes, climbing ropes, pythons, like they were making a defensive position, like they were trying to keep something out. My hands start shaking, and it's not from the cold. I find the journal in the expedition leader's sleeping bag. The handwriting gets messier with each entry. Day 1. Beautiful climb, clear weather, made good progress. Day 2. Something's wrong with the mountain. The wildlife is gone, all of it. Found tracks near camp, huge, bipedal. Tom says they're bear tracks, but they're not. I've seen bear tracks. These are different. Day 3. It followed us today, stayed just out of sight. We could hear it moving on the ice. Something that big shouldn't be able to move that quietly. The temperature keeps dropping, even though the weather hasn't changed. It's like the cold is coming from whatever's out there. Tom wants to turn back. I agree. We're packing up in the morning. The last entry is barely readable. It's outside the tent. Right now. I can hear it breathing. It sounds like wind through a cave. We tried the radio. Dead. All our electronics are dead. If anyone finds this, it's not an animal. It's something else. It knows we're here. It's been waiting for us. The journal entry ends there. There's a dark smear across the last page that might be blood. I'm backing toward the tent exit when I hear it. Footsteps. In the snow. Outside. But they're not normal footsteps. They're too far apart, maybe 3 feet between each one. And heavy. Whatever's making them weighs a lot. I raise my rifle and move to the tent opening. The footprints lead away from camp. They're huge, nearly 2 feet long, 18 inches wide. They show 5 toes with claw marks extending beyond them. The stride pattern is bipedal, walking upright like a person. But no person is 15 feet tall. I follow the tracks because I have to. Because 5 people are missing and I'm responsible for finding them. Because that's my job. The tracks lead up the glacier, toward a series of ice caves I know from previous rescues. The wind starts picking up again and now I can hear something on it. A sound like grinding ice. Or maybe like breathing. I find the first body a quarter-mile from camp. It's Tom Henderson, the expedition's climbing expert. He's suspended from an ice overhang 30 feet above the ground, frozen solid. His arms are spread wide, his mouth open in a scream. He's been positioned there deliberately, placed there as a warning. I've seen a lot of death in 16 years. Hypothermia victims, avalanche casualties, people who fell into crevasses. But I've never seen anything like this. Whatever killed Tom was strong enough to carry a 200-pound man up a sheer ice wall and wedge him into a crack, strong enough to do it quickly before the body could freeze in any other position. My radio crackles even gnawed, and though it shouldn't work. There's too much aurora interference. But I hear a voice anyway, old and rough, speaking Athabascan. Marcus Frostbane, you need to leave that place. Who is this? John Snowtrack. Your grandmother's brother. I'm calling from the village. Can you hear me? I hear you. How? Don't ask how. Listen, you've found the kills, yes? The climbers? One of them. How did you know? Because it's the 20-year hunger. The Tornarsuk has awakened. That word, Tornarsuk. My grandmother used to tell me stories about it when I was small. A spirit of winter, a creature of ice and hunger that walked during the coldest, darkest months. I never believed her. That's just a legend, I say. You're standing next to a body that proves otherwise, John says. The Tornarsuk feeds every 20 years when the cold is deepest and the night is longest. It hunts humans because we taste of fire and warmth. It preserves its victims in ice, so it can feed slowly. You need to leave, Marcus. You can't fight it. There are still 4 people missing. They're already dead. Or worse, it's keeping them alive. Leave them. The radio goes dead. I look up at Tom's frozen corpse and see something that makes my blood go cold. His eyes are open, and they're moving, following me. He's still alive. I'm climbing toward Tom when I hear the sound again, that breathing, grinding noise. Closer now, much closer. Tom's mouth moves. His words come out in frozen gasps. Run. It's coming. For you. Then I see it. The creature stands at the edge of the ice field, maybe 200 yards away. It's massive, 12, maybe 15 feet tall. Its body is covered in fur that shifts between white and ice blue like it's made of frozen light. The aurora overhead brightens when it moves like the sky itself is reacting to it. It has the shape of something humanoid, but wrong. Too tall, arms too long, hands that end in black claws the size of knives. Its face is flat and wide with eyes that glow pale blue in the darkness. It looks at me, really looks. There's intelligence, in those eyes. Calculation. Then it moves. I've never seen anything that big move so fast. 1 second it's 200 yards away, the next it's covering the distance in enormous leaps. Each footfall makes the ice crack beneath it. I'm already running, leaving Tom behind, which makes me hate myself, but survival instinct takes over. I slide down the glacier toward camp, my rifle forgotten, my only thought to get to the snowmobile. Behind me, I hear it following, not running, just walking, taking its time, because it knows I can't escape. I reach the snowmobile and turn the key. The engine coughs once, twice, then roars to life. I gun the throttle and shoot forward across the ice. The temperature drops so fast I can feel it through my cold weather gear. In seconds, it's gone from -50 to -80. The kind of cold that makes metal shatter, that makes fuel lines freeze. My snowmobile engine dies. I coast to a stop in the middle of the glacier 3 miles from base camp. The wind around me is howling now, but it's not natural wind. It's moving in a circle, creating a wall of snow and ice that blocks every direction. The creature steps through the wall. Up close, it's even worse. The fur isn't fur, it's ice crystals that grow and recede with each breath. The eyes are completely white except for tiny black pupils. When it opens its mouth, I see teeth like icicles, each one a foot long. It speaks. The voice sounds like ice cracking in the spring thaw, like wind through a frozen canyon. But I understand it somehow. The words form directly in my mind. You came looking for them. For the warm ones who trespassed in my hunting ground. Where are they? I manage to say. My lips are already cracking from the cold. Where they belong, in the ice, preserved. I feed slowly during the long dark. They will last me until spring. Let them go. The creature makes a sough, and that might be laughter. They are not yours to bargain for. They walked into winter. Winter claimed them. This is the old way. It reaches toward me with one massive, clawed hand. The radio on my belt crackles again. John's voice. The aurora, Marcus! When it peaks, the spirits are strongest, but also most vulnerable. Wait for the peak. I don't know what he means, but I roll sideways as the creature's hand swipes through the space where my head was. The claws pass so close I feel the cold radiating from them. I'm scrambling backward when I hear the second snowmobile. Joseph Coldstar, another ranger from base camp, comes roaring up from the south. He must have heard my distress call or gotten worried when I didn't check in. He's younger than me, only 5 years on the job, but he's brave and skilled. He's also about to die. Joseph, get back, I scream. But he's already pulling up, rifle raised. He fires 3 shots center mass at the creature. The bullets hit and pass straight through, making holes that seal themselves instantly with new ice. The Tornarsuk turns to him. No! I'm running toward them, knowing I can't help, but unable to stop myself. The creature touches Joseph's shoulder, just a light touch, almost gentle. Joseph's scream is the worst sound I've ever heard. He's freezing from the inside out. I can see ice crystals forming under his skin, spreading through his body like white lightning. In 5 seconds, he's a statue. Eyes still open, still aware. The creature looks at me. Your friend will feed me well. His warmth is strong. Then it's gone. It simply steps backward into the wind and vanishes, taking Joseph's frozen body with it. The blizzard wall collapses. I'm alone on the glacier with a dead snowmobile and no way to call for help. That's when I realize this isn't a rescue mission anymore. It's not even about survival. The Tornarsuk isn't just hunting. It's playing. It wanted me to see Joseph die. It wanted me to understand how powerless I am. It's teaching me fear, and it's working. I make it back to base camp on foot. Takes me size. X hours of walking through negative 70-degree cold. I should be dead. Maybe I would be, except the creature doesn't want me dead yet. I can feel it watching me the whole way back, staying just out of sight. When I finally reach the heated shelter, I collapse inside and don't move for an hour. My radio works inside the shelter. I call Sarah in Talkeetna and tell her everything. To her credit, she doesn't call me crazy. What do you need? She asks. Information. Find John Snowtrack in the village. Get him on the radio. I need to know how to kill this thing. While I wait, I treat my frostbite. 3 fingers on my left hand are white and numb. 2 toes on my right foot. I've seen enough frostbite to know they're not going to make it. But I'll worry about that if I survive. John comes on the radio an hour later. You're still alive. Good. Tell me how to stop it. You can't stop it. The Tornarsuk is winter itself. It's hunger and cold given form. The old ones knew to hide when it hunted, to wait until spring. There are still people alive out there. I heard Tom. He was frozen but conscious. That thing is keeping them alive so it can feed slowly. John is quiet for a long moment. Yes. That is its way, to make the warmth last. Then I have to try. Tell me its weakness. During the Aurora peak, the spirits of winter are strongest. But that strength also makes them vulnerable to the old weapons, the traditional ways. You would need bone and obsidian. You would need to follow the hunter's path. You would need to become what your grandmother tried to teach you to be. I think about my grandmother, how she tried to teach me the old stories, the old ceremonies, how I ignored her because I was young and stupid and thought science had all the answers. I don't know the ceremonies, I admit. Then you'll die, John says simply. But you know this already. You're going into that way. He's right. I spend the next 3 hours preparing. I don't have obsidian or bone weapons, but I have something else. My grandmother's knife, which I've carried for 20 years, without ever really looking at it. I examine it now and see the blade is made from bone, whalebone, old and yellow. The handle is wrapped in seal leather with symbols carved into it. She left me what I needed. She always knew I'd need it someday. I wait until the aurora reaches its peak. The sky becomes a curtain of light so bright it casts shadows, green and purple and blue waves that move like living things. Then I go back onto the glacier. I find the creature's lair in the ice caves. The entrance is marked with frozen bodies arranged in a circle. All the missing climbers, plus others from years past. Decades past. The Tornarsuk has been hunting for a long time. Inside the cave, it's waiting. You came back, it says. I knew you would. Your blood calls to winter. You are more spirit than the others. Let them go, I say. Not because I think it will, but because I have to try. No. The creature lunges. I dodge left and slash with my grandmother's knife. The bone blade catches its arm and actually cuts. Black liquid pours out. Not blood, but something thicker, frozen darkness. The Tornarsuk roars. The sound makes ice fall from the ceiling. We fight in the cave, surrounded by frozen victims who watch with living eyes. The creature is stronger, faster, and basically unkillable. But I have something it doesn't expect. I'm not just a ranger. I'm Athabascan. This is my grandmother's fight, passed down through generations. And the aurora is singing overhead, filling me with something I can't explain. Power, connection, understanding. I start chanting words I didn't know I remembered. My grandmother's words, the old language. The creature falters. No, that is forbidden. The old ways are dead. Nothing dies in winter, I say, using its own words against it. Things just wait, and we've been waiting. I drive the bone knife into its chest. Not to kill it. You can't kill winter. But to bind it. To send it back to sleep until the next 20-year cycle. The Tornarsuk screams. The sound is fury and hunger and the absolute cold of space. Then it collapses into ice crystals that scatter on the wind. The aurora dims. I'm alone in the cave, surrounded by bodies that are starting to thaw. Tom is still alive. So is Sarah Chen, the expedition doctor. The others didn't make it. They're frozen, but empty, like shells. I drag the survivors out into the night and call for emergency evacuation. It takes 3 days for helicopters to reach us. 3 days of keeping Tom and Sarah alive with my body heat and the last of my supplies. When we finally make it to Anchorage Hospital, I lose 3 fingers on my left hand and 2 toes on my right foot to frostbite. Small price, considering. The official report says the expedition was caught in an avalanche, that I suffered equipment failure during a rescue attempt, that Tom Henderson and Sarah Chen survived through emergency shelter procedures and luck. Nobody asks about Joseph Coldstar. His body was never found. The official story is that he fell into a crevasse. I don't correct them. 6 months later, I'm back at Denali. My left hand doesn't work quite right anymore, and I walk with a limp, but I can still do my job. I'm more careful now. I pay attention to things I used to ignore. Animal behavior, temperature changes that don't match the weather, the feeling of being watched, and I can sense things now. Cold places where nothing should be. Spots on the mountain where the temperature drops for no reason. Areas where the aurora dances even on clear nights. I'm not just a ranger anymore. I'm something else. A guardian, maybe. Or a watcher. John Snowtrack calls me every few weeks. We talk about the old stories. About things that live in the ice. About responsibilities that come with certain bloodlines. The world is changing, he tells me. The ice is melting. The permafrost is thawing. Things that have been frozen for thousands of years are waking up. You'll be needed, Marcus. More than ever. Visit Tom Henderson once. He's in a psychiatric facility in Seattle. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, it's about the cold. About being frozen but conscious. About watching through ice crystal eyes while the thing fed on him. It's still out there, he tells me. I can feel it. Waiting. 20 years isn't a long time for something that's been alive since the glaciers formed. He's right. I know he's right. Sometimes on the coldest nights I hear it in the wind. That breathing, grinding sound. The Tornarsuk, sleeping beneath the ice. Waiting for the next hunger moon. And I'll be here when it wakes. Because that's what my grandmother trained me for, even if I didn't know it. That's what the knife was for. That's what the name Frostbane means. Some families pass down businesses, some pass down money. Mine passed down a war against winter itself. I'm 43 years old. I've spent 16 years in the Alaska wilderness. I thought I knew cold. I thought I knew danger. Now I know I was wrong about everything. But I'm learning. And when the hungry moon rises again, I'll be ready. The ice remembers. The cold never forgets. And some duties are older than nations, deeper than blood. My name is Marcus Frostbane, and I stand watch on the roof of the world. Something